This is the speedy man, Xavier Worthy, the fastest man to the end zone right away. His first touch, a Kansas City touchdown. Oh, man. Mahomes fires. Brought in. Xavier again. Worthy for a touchdown. Number one has 2 tonight.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. A very happy Friday. What a way to start the 2024 NFL season, guys. Connor Rogers, Matthew Berry, already back from Kansas City. Well-traveled man, Jay Croucher. Looking spry, young Matthew.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we got into the hotel like about 3:30 this morning.
Okay.
So I'm not responsible for anything I say today. Let's be clear.
One Diet Coke and we're so back.
Yeah, we're so back. By the way, this is not the only part you'll see me today. Again, tonight on Peacock exclusively, I'm a company man, we've got Eagles-Packers.
It's a Berry fiesta.
It is
We're gonna
national television.
him.
Yeah.
Just roll him out there. What do you got for us for a parlay tonight?
Yeah.
Pull a lever.
This is good.
Basically.
I'm going to be tuning in. I'm going to be watching you very closely on that
Thank
broadcast.
you.
Me too.
man.
Appreciate
See how your
it.
energy
It'll be
levels
theater
are.
entertainment.
Yeah.
We should actually get together.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you
It'd
go.
be great.
Just,
We get the Berries,
hit
that's
him up.
right.
Hit him up on the text string. I'm not a part of.
You love to see it. All right. Listen, we're one game down. It's going to be a busy week here, busy weekend, especially under the Peacock banner. We'll break down the next 2 games, Packers, Eagles, Rams, Lions. We'll also go through the highest point total games of the entire weekend. But, guys, listen, we got to start with last night. That's why we're jumping right into the Roto World player news. Ravens-Chiefs thriller to kick us off. And, Matthew.
And you see it right there. Look, like, listen, if everyone that has Isaiah Likely on their bench, you drink free
a lot of
today.
people probably.
I mean, like, he's also available in a lot of leagues as well. He wasn't drafted in a ton of leagues, but there are certain people, if you did draft him, no one started him last night, almost no one. I started him in one league, but only because I was truly desperate. Like, you know, and that's a dynasty league where Hawkinson's out for half the year, and my choices are Likely or Theo Johnson. So I started Isaiah Likely. Anyway, you guys all drink free today if Isaiah Likely was on your bench.
All right. Well, we'll get to Likely in just a bit,
Yeah.
but how about Xavier Worthy's, welcome to the NFL?
Dude.
It catches 2 or 3 passes, 47 yards and touchdown, but also that rushing score on the end around. The speed was insane.
Credit Andy Reid for putting his rookies in a position to succeed. Hey, what do you do? Let me keep it simple. Again, I think everyone's going to look at the total fantasy points and be like, he touched the ball 3 times. Like, I want to caution a little. Like, it's unbelievable. Like the speed is on display. Again, this is a player that at the NFL Combine ran the fastest time in NFL history. Like, it is speed for days. I mean, you just see him just blowing by guys right there. If you're watching us on Peacock, you just sort of see it there. And then, of course, this is just a thing of beauty. It's a little bit of a blown coverage or just blows by him, but he's wide open. Mahomes hits him in stride. Easy touchdown for Xavier Worthy. But again, at the end of the day, he got 3 targets. So this is very exciting. I think he's been drafted in almost every fantasy league. I'm not ready to say like he's, a must start going forward, but certainly you feel really good about Worthy if he's on your team.
Yeah, you'd rather see this. Leading up to the draft, before he was taken by the Chiefs, I had heard so much that Andy Reid looked at him and said, I can use him like I used DeSean Jackson in the past. And we got an early glimpse of that week 1. We also got to hear from his quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, who had a lot of great ththings to say about Xavier Worthy. Take a listen.
Man, it was crazy. We ran that in the preseason. I fumbled. So, I mean, it was kind of bad. But just being able for them to have that trust in me. And I told Coach Nagy, I think this player is going to score. And it happened. So, it was just an amazing moment. Just my first touch being a touchdown in the field.
He's so cool, calm, and collected, like, all the time. Like, you would never even see the excitement on him. But, he goes out there and makes plays. Obviously, we want to continue to use him more and more. But I thought he had a great day today, making big plays and big moments. And it was good to get the whole offense going and kind of seeing where everybody's at.
Even Tyreek Hill taking notice. That boy rolling. Oh, my God. Yeah, it's a good start for Xavier Worthy. That's why he was drafted. He's fast.
100%. And it's interesting to see, okay, Andy Reid says I can use him like I used DeSean Jackson. Okay, great. DeSean Jackson was definitely a fantasy asset. He wasn't, best wide receiver in fantasy football. And because he is big play dependent, he was somewhat inconsistent. Again, I don't want to totally pump the brakes because he's Xavier Worthy is obviously incredibly fast, a lot of raw talent there, and he's in arguably the best offense in football with the best quarterback in football and one of, not the best play designer. So they're going to use him, and there's going to be fantasy opportunity for Xavier Worthy, but I don't want people to overreact to 3 touches. In a game in which Travis Kelce really didn't do much. Yes, Pacheco got the touchdown, but there were, and by the way, Hollywood Brown is coming back as well, and so you know what I mean? This was awesome and amazing, and Xavier Worthy is absolutely going to be a thing this year, and he's going to be a viable fantasy starter, but I'm not ready to say, top 10, I think some of the stuff I've seen online is a little over the top.
Got a lot of texts about Xavier Worthy in the past 24 hours, and I would try and trade him. Honestly, it seems like he's never going to have more value at the moment in terms of just as a fantasy asset. Yeah, and the perception, the reality is he had 3 targets in a game that Hollywood Brown didn't play in. And realistically, it's going to be Rice, Kelce, probably Hollywood Brown over Xavier Worthy. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see how that shakes out. But then Pacheco as well. There are a lot of mouths to feed in this offense. And Worthy has I don't think, any real chance to be a top 2 receiving option for Mahomes, just with Kelce and Rice there. So, yeah, he'll have games, I'm sure. And look, he's going to have a game where he catches a 75-yard touchdown pass. That is going to happen. Sure. That didn't happen last night. And he's going to have these games where he's a monster, but the usage is going to be pretty low, I think.
It might be Rashid Shaheed type at times, and at least the beginning.
That's a good call, too.
Right?
That's a very good call.
Get the 2 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown weeks.
Yeah.
You're also going to have weeks, and you brought this up, Jay. Rashee Rice, 7 catches, 9 targets, over 100 yards. It was fascinating to watch, and unfortunately the Ravens didn't catch on to this too much, how the Chiefs would move him around to get him matched up with a linebacker, notably Roquan Smith, and just throw that slant to him, and it was almost spamming this play, how easy it was for them.
Yep, and I think that's the key with Rice, is that it's his diversity as a receiver and the fact they can move him around the formation, and also the fact that he was able to produce this type of game, go 7 receptions for 103 yards without having to catch a deep bomb. It was just so consistent. It seems like it's going to be very repeatable. And this was just a continuation of what we saw in the second half of last season, where Rice kind of became the guy, even over Kelce to an extent. So I think Rashee Rice is clearly going to be the guy for Mahomes. We talked about the suspension ad nauseum. Mike Florio talked about this on the broadcast, unlikely probably to be suspended this year. This is the number 1 guy for Patrick Mahomes in an offense, and we'll talk about Mahomes in a sec, an offense that looks back.
On the preseason love list for a reason. We've talked about him, to your point, ad nauseum. We're not worried about the suspension. You should draft him. He's going too late in drafts, and this is what you see. 6 or more receptions now in 9 of the last 11 games. He cashed his over prop. Good call by you, Connor, on the show yesterday as well, where you basically said, give me the
61.5.
Right.
It's you're not going to get that for long with Rashee
Rice.
No,
you certainly are not. And, it's interesting. This is exactly what Andy Reid, when I spoke to Andy Reid in the definitive Andy Reid interview in the Combine last year. No, but also there's a
box set DVD out
now.
Yeah,
exactly, 100%. 4-hour special on Peacock breaking it all down. My 5-minute interview with Coach Reid. But no, in all seriousness, I asked Andy Reid about Rashee Rice, and to your point about, Jay, the second half of the year, and he said basically once Rashee Rice, the sounds insane, but once he learned Travis Kelce's route tree, he basically said we were at the beginning of the year we could only play him outside, but once he learned to come inside and he was able to do basically everything that Kelce could do inside in addition to the outside, it meant they could move him around. And now you have to account for Kelce and Rashee Rice. And a lot of times what he said is they would often run the sort of the same route or start in the same spot and break off. And so it's just, if you're a defense, to your point about putting him on Roquan Smith or whatever, it was like a chess match in terms of how many mismatches they created for Rashee Rice last night. And it was pitch and catch stuff. It was just easy.
It's trusted by Mahomes. And that is fantasy gold, right? If you're trusted by a top 5 quarterback, in fantasy gold.
To me, also, it's all about the repeatability. Look at the catches that he's getting. It's short, intermediate, it's wide open. Compare that to, say, Mike Evans is going to have to be dependent on catching 50-50 deep balls down the sideline from Baker Mayfield on 3rd down, very high variance plays. I think Rashee Rice is just going to produce week in, week out. He has such a high floor because of his route tree.
If I were drafting today for the rest of the season, Rashee Rice is a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. He is I think he is going to be, if you were 100%, I guarantee you he plays all 17 games this year. And again, injuries can happen, and there's still a slight chance that the NFL suspends one of the personal conduct possibly. But as we've talked about ad nauseum, and Florio also said on the show last night, like, highly unlikely that happens until the court case happens. There's not even a court case set. There's like one thing that's happening in December that as part of the case. So it's if there's a suspension coming, it'll be 2025. If I was drafting today, he's in that Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, top 10-ish wide receiver range.
Yeah, where like Puka was going.
I'd take him above
Puka.
I'd take him above Mike Evans.
Yeah, I mean, rest of the season, Rashee Rice or Chris Olave.
Oh, I'm taking Rashee Rice.
Yeah,
I just don't trust the Saints' offensive line with Carr.
But that's
something that's Olave.
I don't think Derek Carr's going to last the season. It's going to Spencer Rattler.
That's the argument, though.
Yeah.
That's my point, right? Exactly. I mean, Olave was going like top 12. To your point about like Puka, same sort of thing. Like it's just it's all sort of like right there.
Yep. I take him after Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown. Take him before Olave and Evans and Puka. Yep.
Matthew, a serviceable night from Patrick Mahomes fantasy-wise, 15.1 points. He didn't really run a lot, which is probably the key to him not having a big night. Obviously, Lamar had the huge night, but very
only
efficient.
only the one passing touchdown. That's the thing. I mean,
right.
I think they faltered a couple of times in the red zone. Butker gets a couple of field goals, and the Xavier worthy reverse had that play happen in front of Mahomes,
Just
where he pitches it in
pass.
front
I know.
instead of pitching it back.
Looks a lot
Got to
different.
get the Aaron Rodgers playbook. Aaron knows to throw that pass forward.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Mahomes' game is a perfect illustration of how sometimes you need to take a look under the hood of the box score, because the box score doesn't look amazing. He's like 291 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, gets sacked a couple of times. But Mahomes, on an efficiency basis, because they only had the ball for 26 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? Because the Ravens took like 8 minutes off the clock in that first drive. Mahomes last night was 0.42 EPA per play. Brock Purdy led the league last year at 0.34. Mahomes was at 0.13. Like, they were moving the ball, and to me, this is the biggest story out of last night. This Chiefs offense is back. Like, it is not going to be like last year. There is so much more space. You can just breathe.
It felt aggressive.
The O-line was better. He was pressured on 32% of dropbacks. Last year, 36%, and this Ravens defense is good, clearly above average. So I think Mahomes is going to be back on track to the guy he was 2 years ago when he walked in the MVP.
Yeah, it's super weird. Like, so I had for the opener, I had to do a 4-leg parlay. That was the requirement. And so and by the way, and it didn't hit. But parts of the ones that did, like, I took the over on Mahomes passing yards, that hit. I took an alt line. I took the over on Pacheco yards from scrimmage, that hit. We'll talk about that in a sec. We'll talk about Pacheco, but like, I took the over on 1.5 passing touchdowns. I thought that was the easy one.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it should have hit. That was a drop.
Yeah, I mean, right, but it didn't. You know what I mean? Like, that was, that and the Derrick Henry leg. I went 2 for 4. We'll talk about Derrick Henry in a second too. But that was my point. Was like, as I was building that parlay, I thought, all right, well, this is the chalk one. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm having to build a 4-leg parlay.
Yeah.
So let me, and then, but that's the one that didn't hit. Right? It should have. Right, to your point. Like, they had a number of opportunities. What are you going to do? That is why they call it gambling.
Indeed.
Let's look at the tight end situation. I don't think anybody would have guessed Noah Gray would outscore Travis Kelce. Now, it was narrow here. Kelce catches 3 of 4 targets for 34 yards. Noah Gray catches all 3 of his targets for 37 yards. Matthew, Kelce was out there. It's not like they were really limiting him. The ball just didn't come his way as much as we're used to seeing.
He played 88% of the snaps. They didn't need him. Like, if you're gonna. If Rashee Rice is going to be open on every stupid play, like,
throw to Rashee Rice.
Throw to Rashee Rice. It seemed like there was because there was a lack of Travis Kelce, there was a lack of Taylor Swift shots last night as well. I feel like we didn't see as much of Taylor.
There's a lot of season left.
Yeah, a lot of season left. I don't know.
There's a lot of dudes on this team now, and maybe it doesn't feel that way because there's a lot of the same cast as last year. But just adding Worthy and like, how's it going to look when Hollywood Brown's out there? I think that there's just such a wealth of options now that it's just going to be week by week. Like, what's the matchup? Last night the matchup was Rashee Rice going up against linebackers. Some weeks it's going to be Travis Kelce. Some weeks it's going to be deep balls to Worthy and Brown. Like, I just don't think there's going to be the consistency that has defined Kelce's output for like a decade.
Yeah, look, I think he's probably gets a little bit less because there are many more weapons in the emergence of Rice. I think he gets less targets this year, but do I think he still winds up as a top 5 fantasy tight end? I do. he's going to be more touchdown dependent this year than I think he has been in years past, because I don't think he's going to get as much volume in the passing game as possible. I thought the fact that he played 88% of the snaps is actually very encouraging. If Travis Kelce's out there for 88% of the snaps, more often than not, Mahomes is going to find him. He's Travis freaking Kelce. So, certainly not worried about Noah Gray. We'll talk about the tight end situation on the Ravens here in a second, but I'm not worried about Noah Gray. So, maybe slightly lower expectations for Travis Kelce, but I just sort of just wasn't a great day at the office because they didn't need him.
Yep, slight bump up for Rashee Rice. Well, a pretty big bump up for Rashee Rice, and Kelce goes down as a result a little bit.
Matthew,
but if you were drafting again today, Kelce still, maybe you take McBride over Kelce,
Yeah, I don't think.
Certainly not bumping Mark Andrews up over him.
No,
Right,
exactly.
right,
That's
right.
what I'm saying.
It's just one game.
one
Teams are
game.
going to start adjusting to Rashee Rice, and then who's that going to open things up for? Somebody else, Travis Kelce.
Exactly. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.